Okay, scholars, so here's part 2 of our lesson from section 8.1, working with similar right triangles and finding missing side lengths. So remember, if you have a right triangle with the inside height that we call the altitude, remember the first thing you do is you label the triangle as if it was the Pythagorean theorem. So A, B, and C. And then with the height in there, you have the additional labeling of X, Y, and H. So once everything is labeled, it follows that one of the three formulas is going to hold up. If you're involving the H side, then you have X over H equals H over Y. If it's involving the A side, X over A equals A over C. Or if it's involving the B side, Y over B equals B over C. So one of those three formulas will be used for the purposes of solving out your problem. Now, in this case, we're working with examples that have multiple things missing. So if they have multiple things missing, you kind of have to plot your course based off of what's given to you. So the first thing you have to notice with example 1 is you're looking for X and Y. So those are the two things that are missing. Now, of course, the first step is still to do your labeling. So you label it as if you were doing the Pythagorean theorem. So A squared, B squared, and the whole thing here is C. Now you label it with the altitude inside. So the altitude represents your H. The X, remember, goes next to the A. The Y goes next to the B. So now everything is labeled. So notice that the two missing sides corresponds to H and corresponds to B. So that at least now narrows down what two formulas you're going to use. You're going to end up using the formula with the H. So X over H equals H over Y. And you're going to use the formula that has B in it. Y over B equals B over C. So we now know what formulas are going to be used. Now we just have to go about solving out the problem. Now, to solve that part out, it looks like in this case, you kind of can chart your own path. So we're going to go ahead and find H first. So X is, so the X side in this case is 40. 40 over H equals H over 30. So if we work that out, H times H is H squared. 40 times 30 is 1200. So that means we are taking the square root of 1200 to solve this problem out. 1200 is not a perfect square, so we got to go ahead and work the problem out. Again, it's not necessary that you take the biggest one out if you don't know it. Start with something that you know and work your way down. So 1200 is the same thing as 100 times 12. The square root of 100 is 10. But 12 can still be broken down into 4 and 3. The square root of 4 is 2. And 3 you can't break down anymore. So your H is going to end up equaling to 20. 10 times 2, square root of 3. H was on the X side, so X is equal to 20 square root of 3. So that's the first part. Now we do it again, use the second part, a second formula. Y over B equals B over C. So Y is 30. And B in this case is the Y variable. And then B over C. C now is 30 plus 40, which is 70. So everything's set up. Now we cross multiply. Y times Y is Y squared. 30 times 70 is 2100. Again, we're taking the square root of 2100. Break that up into its two parts. 100 times 21. The square root of 100 is 10. Now the square root of 21, you can't break down at all. 4 doesn't divide in, 9 doesn't divide in, 16 doesn't divide in, and 25 is too big. So 21 is in its final form. So your answer is 10 square root 21. So again, you're using the same concept, you're just having to do the problem twice. So that's the part you have to keep in mind there. So we'll do one more example of that type, and that's example number 2. So example 2, again, first order of business should be for you to label it. Label the triangle as if you were doing Pythagorean theorem. So A, B, whole thing is C. Now you take care of the second labeling. Next to A would be your X. Next to B would be your Y. And the altitude is your H. So if we look in this problem, the X labeling we don't know, and the B labeling we don't know, and those are the things we're being asked to find. So that really forces you into the formulas that you need to use. So for the B, to end up finding the B side, that's Y over B equals B over C. And to find the H component, X over H equals H over Y. So again, you can pick and choose how you go about solving it first. However, if you look at the problem carefully enough, you'll realize that it's probably easier to find out what X is first. So we're going to go ahead and find out what X is equal to. So using that formula, we have X over the H value, which is 10, equals 10 over Y is equal to 20. So this takes care of itself. 20 times X is 20X. 10 times 10 is 100. So X equals 5. X is equal to 5. Now we can turn around and use the other formula. So Y is equal to 20. In the B part, we don't know it, fill in the variable. So for C, C means you have to take those two values and add them up. Hence, that's why we found X first. 20 plus 5 gives us 25. So now we have our other equation to solve out. Y times Y is Y squared. 20 times 25 is 500. So Y equals the square root of 500. Break that up into 100 times 5. Square root 100 is 10. And square root of 5 doesn't work. So there's your answers for problem number 2. Again, it's not difficult, but you just have to exercise some grit, exercise some perseverance, and know that pencils have erasers on them. If you need to start over, then start over. So the main things to keep in mind as you move forward, you definitely have to know how to label. Label your triangle first. That will then dictate what formula you use. You have 3 different options. And then after you set everything up, go ahead and start solving it out. Take your time, rely on what you know, and everything is going to be just fine. So this concludes section 8.1. Please view this video as many times as you feel you need to. Get the help that you need. Ask questions, go to tutoring, and ultimately be great.